Right friends, welcome back to Editorial Discussion. Today we are going to deliberate on 4 important aspects. The first aspect is with regard to the controlling of the prices of stands. Then second important issue is identity politics. What do you understand by identity politics? Yesterday we discussed about the new global order, and today's topic identity politics is also equally important. And third topic we are going to deliberate on Nagaland issue, and there is a interpretation of 2 articles of the constitution that we are going to deliberate in today's discussion. The fourth one is with regard to share buybacks. Tata Consultancy Services announced that it will buy back shares, and that we are going to deliberate what is the difference between dividends as well as share buybacks, why companies go for share buybacks. So, these 4 issues we are going to deliberate today, 2 pertaining to the Hindu, 1 Economic Times, 1 Business Line, right. So, the first article of the Hindu, this article talks about this price control for cardiac stents. Price control for cardiac stents. Before going into the news, I would like to tell you about 2 organizations. From examination perspective, you should have clear idea about what is CDSCO, what is NPPA. Let us look at the CDSCO. Before going into CDSCO, one should have clear idea about Drug and Cosmetics Act. As per Drug and Cosmetics Act, there is a clear differentiation between the role of central government and state governments. The role of central government and state governments with regard to drugs. The role of state government I will explain you. The role of state government is manufacturing, distribution of various drugs. Manufacturing, sale, distribution of various drugs, this is the lookout of state governments. But what is the role of central government? The central government's role is basically approval of new drugs. This is very important. Approval of new drugs is within the purview of central government. At the same time, clinical trials in the country. Before approving a new drug, clinical trials are undertaken whether the drug is effective or not. So, these clinical trials is also within the purview of central government, and at the same time laying down standards for drugs, at the same time imported drugs, quality of imported drugs. So, these are the important aspects looked after by central government. So, for any new drug, approval is to be given by the central government, and for already approved drugs, manufacturing, sale, distribution, that is the lookout of state governments. So, having learned this, let us concentrate on the duties of central government. Who will look after this approval of new drugs, clinical trials, import of drugs? What is the authority vested with these powers? The authority vested with all these powers is Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. This is a CDSCO. So, CDSCO is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. That is important point. So, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, under it this CDSCO works. And another important aspect of this CDSCO, in addition to whatever I have stated, the additional responsibility of CDSCO is recommending to the government for inclusion or exclusion of various drugs as well as medical implants. Examples I will come to you little later. So, various drugs, medical implants, it will recommend for inclusion in national list of essential medicines. So, it is the responsibility of CDSCO to recommend to the government what are the drugs, what are the implants to be included under National List of Essential Medicines. So, this is the duty of CDSCO. Once it recommends it, normally it takes a review once in 3 years. Once it recommends it, it is up to the central government to accept or reject those recommendations. Normally central government accepts those recommendations. So, this national list of essential medicines is maintained by the central government. National list of essential medicines is maintained by the central government based on the recommendations of CDSCO. This is one part of the story. Let us look into the second part of the story. So, for the medical implants or drugs already incorporated in NLEM, for drugs as well as implants already incorporated in NLEM, then the organization which comes into picture is National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. Then in the second stage, National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority comes into picture, and here what is the duty of National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority? The duty of NPPA is basically to regulate the price of medicines or implants, that is controlling the prices of medicines as well as implants which are listed under National List of Essential Medicines. So, including in National List of Essential Medicines is the lookout of Health and Family Welfare Ministry depending on the recommendations of CDSCO, and after it is included in National List of Essential Medicines, the matter will go to NPPA. Please do not forget, NPPA is under the Department of Pharmaceuticals, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, and subsequently this organization NPPA regulates the prices of medicines or implants, that is price control of medicines or implants listed in NLEM. So, first they have to be listed, then price control. And you may have a pertinent doubt, what about medicines not included in this? For medicines not included in NLEM, then NPPA can regulate only to certain extent, that it cannot increase by 10% every year. So, it do not have much control for the medicines not included in NLEM, but it has full control for the medicines or implants included in NLEM. Right. This is all about CDSCO, NPPA. CDSCO is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. NPPA is under the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. So, this is about these organizations. Right. Let us come back to the issue. The issue is NPPA reduced the prices of stents. You may have a doubt, what is meant by stent? Stent is placed in blood vessels basically to relieve an obstruction. Basically to relieve an obstruction, these stents are used. Stents are used in coronary arteries, if I am not wrong. So, coronary artery is the blood vessel which takes oxygen rich blood to the heart. Oxygen rich blood to the heart is taken by coronary artery, and to relieve obstruction these stents are placed, and these are two types. One is drug eluting stents, other one is normal stents. Drug eluting stents means they elude drugs, that means they release some drug into the bloodstream. So, that is drug eluting stents and metal stents, and recently National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority fixed at rupees 29,600 from 1.98 lakh. In fact, hospitals are totally exploiting the common man, and to prevent that, as a first step, they were added in the list of essential medicines. They were added to the list of essential medicines first, and subsequently their prices were controlled by NPPA. And you see, 7,260 instead of 40,000, 29,600 instead of 1.98 lakh. So, price control was done by NPPA, and now government is thinking of controlling other implants also, and as per the news report, these hospitals are exploiting common man by exorbitantly hiking the prices of orthopedic implants. Basically this is a knee surgery. For knee surgery, orthopedic implant is placed and they increased the price by 4 times, 5 times, and at the same time intraocular lens. These are used in the eyes. So, for intraocular lens as well as orthopedic implants, government is trying to have some regulation in future by including them in national list of essential medicines. Right. So, this is all about the news, and if you want further important points to notice, basically artificial jacking up of prices by hospitals is making people impoverished. Please do not forget, almost 2/3 of the expenditure in our country, almost 60 to 70% of the expenditure comes from out of pocket. Out of pocket expenditure is more. When out of pocket expenditure is more, then what happens? When a person is suffering because of some illness, ultimately he will be impoverished. In fact, several people will go above poverty line to below poverty line because of medical impoverishment, as 2/3 of the expenditure in our country is out of pocket. Then another important aspect is 2/3 of the cost of total medical treatment. 2/3 of total cost of medical treatment is basically drugs and implants. 2/3. So, that is irony of Indian medical situation, because hospitals are jacking up the prices, and in India, in fact, several medicines prices are also inflated, and the lobby of manufacturers of pharmaceuticals are also working against generic medicines. Then please look into this. Planning Commission's expert group a few years ago estimated that if spending on public procurement of medicines is raised to 0.5% of GDP, then it will provide all essential medicines to everyone. At present, government spends only 0.1% of GDP on procurement of drugs, just 0.1% of GDP. If it is increased to 0.5% of GDP, then everyone will be provided with essential medicines, right? Then what is the counter view? Now this stent prices are controlled by NPPA. Then what is the counter view? There may be some problems anticipated because of the manufacturing lobby or lobby of the hospitals. First and the foremost is there is every possibility that hospitals, stent manufacturers may come together to create artificial shortage. Then second point is hospitals may try to increase costs in other procedures in hospitals. Stents prices are controlled. So, there is no guarantee that hospitals do not increase the prices of other procedures so as to make at the same level. Then third point is, as the margins are reduced, it may prevent further innovation and research. Margins up to some extent are required to promote innovation and research. At the same time, another question asked is, who will fund for R&D? R&D requires huge funds in pharmaceutical sector. Then who will fund for R&D, and it may kill the domestic industry due to price controls. At the same time, there should be separate and preferential pricing if the therapeutic superiority is proven. So, these are counter views. Whatever the counter view, one fundamental point is the rate of any particular item cannot be inflated by 500%. 600%. So, it is totally criminal, it is totally unethical. So, there is a case in point for controlling the prices of stents by National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. Right friends, we leave this discussion here and look at the second aspect. When the unelected set the agenda, and this is talking about identity politics. please understand clearly, in the future examinations, post-truth, new global order, identity politics, there may be topics of discussion not only for examinations but also for interviews. Let us look at the meaning of identity politics. Before going into the meaning of identity politics, let us look at the 3 examples which occurred in recent times. First one is, all of you are familiar with the famous journalist Malini Subramanian. Malini Subramanian reported on the violence against tribal people by CRPF Jawans, especially rape of some women by CRPF Jawans in Bastar region of Chhattisgarh. Subsequently, what happened? Crowd attacked her house, but unfortunately, police refused to file a case. So, this is example of identity politics. That means police versus citizens. Because the CRPF has got allegations, CRPF is under allegations that some of the Jawans raped tribal women. So, it is tantamounting to identity politics of police versus citizens. That is why police interfere to file a case, police refused to file a case, right. So, this is one example of this identity politics. Look at another example. There was an accident in Bengaluru some months ago, and the driver happened to be an African. Driver was an African, and what happened subsequently? In the near vicinity, 2 Tanzanian citizens were passing by. They are not at all connected with the accident, but they were attacked. So, here citizens versus foreign nationals, citizens versus Africans. So, this is identity politics. Look at another example. What happened some time ago? A boy was killed in celebratory firing. In some function, some celebratory firing is going on in the affluent family or affluent politicians of Uttar Pradesh. A boy was killed in the celebratory firing. Subsequently, journalists reported it to the media and the journalists were attacked. So, this is example of identity politics. Whatever I have stated, these 3 are examples of identity politics. What is the meaning now? Meaning is mobilizing people based on their identity, not based on rational thinking. It is based on their identity. Indians versus foreigners, Indians versus Africans, police versus citizens, journalists versus citizens, lawyers versus citizens. So, this is how the things are going on in this country. So, this is identity politics. So, there is nothing wrong when people are mobilized based on their identity. There is nothing wrong. But what has happened in this country for the past few months? In fact, mobilization of people based on their identity is justified when it is for the betterment of them. If it is for the betterment of their status, it is justifiable. But it is not the case in our country now. In our country, people are being mobilized based on their identity and emotionally they are being charged against other identity or other religion, other nationals. So, emotionally charging the people after mobilization. This is unfortunate part of this identity politics which are going on in this country. Then identity politics, I further elaborate it. Individuals are seen as members of one particular larger group. Individuals are seen as members of one particular larger group. If individual is committing some crime, then group is coming in his support. Then group is held responsible for individual crimes. So, group mobilization is taking place in case of individual crimes. So, this is unfortunate aspect. Look at the 3 more aspects. You see, is it real democracy? The first one is, if some statement is given by some person in this country, look at the statement. There are some good people in Pakistan. Definitely there are 90%, 95% good people in Pakistan. If someone gives this, if someone gives this statement, then What is the reaction in this country? The reaction in this country is people who gave these statements are dubbed as anti-nationals. Look at another example. Some people questioned the compulsory usage of national anthem in movie halls. Supreme Court made it mandatory for national anthem compulsory, and if someone questions this, then they are dubbed as anti-nationals. Third important aspect, you see, some people in Tamil Nadu questioned cruelty to animals through Jallikattu, and immediately they are dubbed as anti-Tamils. What is this nature? What is this going on in this country? So this is all identity politics, right? So I have given enough examples. Any democracy can survive with dissidence and discussion, not like this. So these are all examples of which are going on in this country and which are examples of identity politics, right? What is the need of the hour? Need of the hour is frame the rules and laws rationally, and once they are framed, the laws must be respected and enforced without any exception. Otherwise, democracy will be at its democracy will face so many problems in future. So India's commitment to the democracy as on date is on test, and it is the duty of not only judiciary but executive, at the same time legislative, and the responsible civil society to correct these errors going on in this country. Right friends, this is about identity politics, or you can say here this is discussion with regard to identity politics. And let us move on to third topic. This is yesterday's article in Economic Times. This is amend the constitution, set Naga women free. Here basic constitutional issues are involved. I will tell you the brief history of the case. This clearly shows gender bias. Nagaland Chief Minister resigned recently. He got the support of around 46 legislators out of 60. He has not resigned due to lack of support, but because of some extraneous reason. Towards people dubbed him as a person with gender bias. That's why he resigned. Let me tell you the history. Nagaland is the state considered to be deep patriarchal bias. You may have a doubt. What is meant by patriarchal bias? Patriarchal bias means bias towards male domination, or you can say giving preference to male and suppressing the rights of women. That is a patriarchal bias, right? So Naga society is a male dominated society. Women's rights are suppressed. That's why it is called patriarchal society. And please don't forget, since the first election in 1964, some of you may feel it as a surprise, since first election of 1964, there has been no woman representative in the assembly. No women representative for the past 50 years in Nagaland assembly. Then Article 243T of the Constitution, please don't forget, 243 article of the Constitution basically looks at giving special powers to local bodies. Through 73rd Constitution Amendment, powers were given to panchayats. Through 74th Amendment, powers were given to municipal bodies. Please don't forget, through 73rd Amendment, powers were given to panchayats. Through 74th Amendment, powers were given to municipal bodies, and the clauses are incorporated in Article 243. So as per clause of Article 243, 1/3 of the seats are to be reserved for women in local bodies. 1/3 of the seats are to be reserved for women in local bodies. Then the matter of women's reservation in local bodies or civic bodies even went up to Supreme Court. Actually, it is inbuilt in the Constitution 243, and in Nagaland the elections were not held because they cannot enforce women's reservation, and the matter went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court upheld the appeal by Naga Mothers Association and allowed 33% reservation for women in urban local bodies. 33% reservation for women in urban local bodies. Accordingly, elections were scheduled on February 1 with reservation of 33% for women. But subsequently what happened? Tribal organizations protested. There are vehement protests, there was lot of violence, and tribal organizations protested against 33% reservation to women, and subsequently these elections were cancelled. And Naga outfits demanded the resignation of the chief minister, and ultimately chief minister had to resign. So, this is the irony of the bias, gender bias, and because of this we are deliberating what are the constitutional provisions. First and the fundamental thing is, it is against fundamental rights. It is against fundamental rights given to women. Fundamental rights are given to one and all, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, gender, and this violates fundamental rights. At the same time, please look into this article 243. I have already told you, as per 74th Constitution Amendment, 1/3 of the seats are to be reserved for urban local bodies, and this is constitutional provision. But now the Naga groups are saying there is one Article 371A. Article 371, please don't forget, that gives some special privileges to various states, states like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, then Manipur, then Nagaland. They were given certain special powers, and this is Article 371, and the Naga groups says that as per Article 371, they cite Naga customary law and procedure is to be protected. As per this Article 371, no act of parliament will be applicable in these cases unless state legislative assembly passes the law. But here the interpretation of Naga customary laws and procedures. There is one clause, Naga customary laws and procedures, and Naga outfits are not in a position to heed the judgment of Supreme Court itself, and they are interpreting that Naga customary laws and procedures is against reservation to women. So, under these circumstances, there is a need for amendments to the constitution, basically to make things explicit, right. This is all about Nagaland issue. Look into the last one. This is the business line article of today. In fact, it is news item. This is about share buybacks. Share buybacks. What do you understand by it? How is it different from dividend? You see, look at the software companies. Cognizant, Tata, Wipro, Infosys. These software companies have got thousands of crores of cash. You see, there is a difference of having cash by software companies, and if cash is available with Reliance Industries. Let us say example, if cash is available with Reliance Industries, then he will use that cash for expansion of petroleum refineries or expansion of Reliance Jio, and subsequently share prices will increase when expansion of industry takes place. Normally any industry will do that, they do not keep cash. But look at software industry. Software industry is flush with lot of cash, and this cash is in fact they are not able to utilize because there is not much scope for expansion at the present juncture. They are not able to expand their operations by buyouts of small companies or by expanding their operations. Normally software companies will have lot of cash. So, when more and more cash is there with them, there are two options, whether you expand the operations by spending them so that share value will increase. Second option is, if you are not able to expand, give it out to the shareholders. Shareholders give it out, and when they are following the second option, there are two ways. One way is give it out to the shareholders through dividends. Dividend means when you are purchasing shares, on the shares held by you, if they are profits, every year company gives dividends. Company can pay back to the shareholders in the form of dividends. So, please do not forget, dividend is the term associated with the shares. Then coupon rate is associated with the debentures. Debenture is just giving loan to the company. Share means purchasing ownership in the company. There is difference between shares and dividends, and here the excess cash by the software companies can be given back in two ways. One is giving in the form of dividends, other giving in the form of buybacks. That means company will buy back the shares. Let me explain. Dividends, buybacks. Dividend means when company has got lot of cash and accumulated cash because of profit year after year, they can give back to the shareholders in the form of dividend. That is what I explained here. The second option is, instead of dividend, they can buy back some shares. That means total shares outstanding in the market will be reduced by buying shares. Company will buy back some shares by paying money. When company is buying back shares, then it is expected there will be less number of shares in the market, and because of less number of shares in the market, then share prices will increase. Right. So, there are two options when companies are flooded with cash. One is dividend, other one is buyback. Now, what are the advantages of buybacks? Why companies are resorting to buybacks instead of dividends? I have explained here. Companies are resorting to buybacks because of the reason there is 10% tax on dividends. When a dividend received is more than 10%, when a dividend received is more than 10 lakhs, there is imposition of 10% tax on dividends. So, here large shareholders will be affected because of taxes. That is why companies feel it better to go for buybacks. Second point is, at present the market is volatile, especially software. So, companies hope to give some boost to the share prices. The meaning is, when the shares are reduced in the market by share buyback, then share prices are expected to move up. Because companies are not able to expand, companies are not able to spend money, and the situation is volatile. Under the circumstances, share buyback is expected to increase or give a boost to the share prices. Third point is, a buyback is expected to improve per share earnings in futures. Right. So, we discussed 4 important aspects, and I hope you all clear about these 4 aspects. NPPA. Then second point is, we discussed about identity politics. Third point is share buybacks, and at the same time we discussed about other aspect. This is about Nagaland issue. These 4 are important issues. If you look at either any type of examination as a matter of fact. Right friends, please do join again tomorrow at 11 AM, today 12 noon for comprehension ability discussion. And today's topic is with regard to e-commerce companies, with regard to brick and mortar retail companies. You will know lot of terminology today, not only in English but also economy perspective. Please do join at 12 noon. Have a nice day. Thank you.